All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. This is the first DevCast of 2024 at the end of February, so we're just starting everything back up. And we decided to start this month with an Ask Me Anything session as we get into the year. And my name's Jim Crispino. I am a senior director in product development here at Genesys. I oversee the developer center and the developer tools that we develop. And I also work on the App Foundry team helping partners integrate their solutions. So I'm here today just to kind of walk you through some questions that you might have. If you have a question, please use the Q&A widget at the bottom of Zoom. Don't use chat, put it in the Q&A widget. And I will try and answer those. I have just a few questions from folks who sent those in ahead of time. So we'll go through those and then I'll answer any that we have live on this session. Before we get started, a few logistics. I'm recording this there. Yeah, we won't keep a 10-minute Q&A because the whole thing is a Q&A since I don't really have a topic. And then we are recording this. This will be posted to our YouTube channel, and it'll be available on our developer center at developer.genesys.cloud under the video section there. So with that, I'm done with slides. And really, before we go into the questions, I have a few items I want to show. I want to give you this year is going to be an exciting year for Genesys. In my opinion, it's going to be an exciting year for Genesys. It seems like we've had a bit of a dry spell, if you will, of new exciting technologies that can come out and really that can make for last year. And this year, work item routing, task routing, whatever you want to call it, is coming out. I know I said that last year. I actually had a DevCast webinar on it last year. But it is going to be released at the end of March as GA. So that's really exciting. It is imminent. I was just on a call with the product manager for that yesterday. He guaranteed me it's releasing at the end of March. So that's exciting. So I'm going to show you, I want to take you through what that looks like because it's going to open up a lot of possibilities. So let me show you task routing. So it starts with, task routing is, you guys are all used to voice calls and chats and emails, but there are industries where there are other items that need to get to an agent. Maybe a case needs to be routed to an agent to handle. Maybe there's snail mail. Maybe you still get literal US or whatever country you're in postal mail that needs to be scanned in and routed to an agent to work. Maybe you get fax documents. Believe it or not, there's still industries where fax is pretty popular. Maybe you get fax documents. Maybe it's an insurance claim. Maybe it's a bank loan. Those long-running tasks, those things that need to go from an agent to an agent to an agent, and there's other automated processes in between. That's task management, and Genesys is about to release our ability to handle those. So maybe what I'll show you is kind of what that looks like to send one in. So we have a task management API, and I apologize for the font. I can't make the font on Postman big in the UI, but I tried to make the font in the body as big as possible so you guys could see it. We have an API v2 task management work items. If you do a post to that and you send in a body like this, you tell it what type of work item you're creating. So you can have multiple types. You could have one type for faxes and one type for snail mail and one type for loans and one type for insurance claims. And you can have all these different types, and each type can have fields associated with it. So you get to define the attributes of the item that you're routing. I just created a couple of custom fields for mine. I've got a brief description of what it is, some notes of what it is, and maybe a URL to get to that item. So if it's like If it's a fax, maybe that fax exists as a PDF on some file share, or maybe it's a fax in a third-party system. So, maybe you're routing this fax and it's, you've got the URL there. So if I send this with Postman, that goes into Genesys Cloud. You get a confirmation back that the item was created. Here's the conversation ID of the item. So it is a conversation just like any of our other conversations. And it goes into the platform. So a couple of things, it will route just like any other item. So if I go on queue, there it is. There's my DevCast item. I'm going to answer that. And it's a work item, so it's got a little bit different view than you're used to for some of the other things. You get the top level items. I'll talk about what a work bin is, but you get the type of item it is. Again, if it was a fax or snail mail or a claim, you could have the work type. Work items have a due date, and they also have a priority. So you can tell when this item is due. I put it 1 month out for when it's due. And here are my custom fields, those custom attributes I sent in. The agents get to see those. I can click out to this link and it would take me to Wikipedia. So if it was a fax, I could go view that fax and I could handle what that fax meant to do. Maybe it was an account update, or maybe it's for the US, maybe it's some HIPAA form that you send into your insurance or whatever. So the agent can handle that. And then there's different statuses. I don't have a very exciting process flow. I've got the items open and I handle it and then I close it. But you can have a multi-step workflow that things traverse along, like for an insurance claim. Maybe the claim is made. There has to be somebody who goes out on site and reviews the claim, and then it goes to underwriting to figure out how much will they pay for it, and then the work has to be done to fix the thing, and then the claim closes, right? So you can have all those steps, and they can go along. If I get this item and I can't work it right now, I need some extra information, or I'm about to go to lunch and I want to come back and finish it, I can park that. I can put that item in a work bin. So I have a personal work bin or a group work bin where I can put that thing and somebody else can pick it up. And you can get back to your work bin by going to the list view. And let me refresh this. And here's my work bin. And I got to figure out how to get that back. I haven't parked anything. Oh, return to roster. So as a user, I'm actually viewing this as a supervisor too. So I have a lot more features as a supervisor. But as a user, I would be able to come in and see my items, and I would be able to return it to the roster. And when I do, it takes me back into the view. I click on that and I'm back into working on it. And when I'm done, I can close it. I can say I've worked on it. I can wrap it up. Let's see, resolved, save, and I'll close that. And if I go back to my list view, the item's now closed. And so that's how work items work. So the other interesting use case for work items is if you want to route a third-party chat, okay, maybe you don't use Genesys chat, but you use some third-party vendor, or maybe you have video interactions, right? You do video interactions that Genesys doesn't do. You can use task routing to route those items as well. So if there's a lot of possibilities for work items, and additionally, there's a new flow type. So if I go look at architect and I go, sorry, I'm looking over here because that's where my screen's at. All right, let's see. Workflows. Got to remember which one I did here. Maybe it's just this one. Actually, I can tell which one it is. No, it's not that one. So if I go back to Genesys Cloud and I go down to the tasks. So you define work types here. You define the different kinds of work types. So I created a DevCast work item. And where did I think it's the work bin. The work bin defines the routing for it. So I've got a DevCast work bin. Is that where it's at? Nope, it's not there either. It's got to be in the work type. Sorry, I'm fairly new to this. I just got this turned on the other day. Transitions. Routing. There it is. It's right there, right in front of me. So I just put it into a queue. I just have queue routing. So it goes into a certain queue, and that queue routes it to me. So there are flows. There is a way to get it to a flow and have a flow execute on it, because you can do all sorts of things in the flow about reprioritizing things in the queue and whatever. So you can also have in queue flows for work items. And then also for each work type, you can define the custom attributes for that work type. So here's my, well, that's interesting. Okay. Let me reload. One moment here. Custom attributes, so they are. So here I created a couple of custom attributes, small text field, a website URL, large text, etc. So you can have any number of attributes on a work item that you want. So there's that. So work items are coming. That's like super exciting, and to combine that with other types and routing and the analytics that can come out of that are just going to open up a ton of possibilities, not just for the call center, but you can route work items to the back office to have non-call center people work on work items and such. So we also have what coming out, cloud functions. So you guys probably all know about data actions. Data actions are great. They're the ability to call a third-party system, call a third-party API. You can call a Lambda. Really, you can do a lot with data actions. But if some customers don't want to host something, they don't want to have their own AWS account with Lambdas in it. They don't want to. They don't have an API to call, but they do want to perform some function. So Genesys is going to have what we call cloud functions, and they're essentially Lambdas. We're going to host in the customer's Genesys Cloud org some Lambda code. So you can send us an AWS Lambda. You'll have it as a zip file. You will upload it. You'll create the cloud function in Genesys Cloud. There'll be an admin utility to upload that zip file. We'll upload the Lambda into your AWS instance for your org, and you'll be able to execute that code. You won't be able to edit the Lambda. We're not like opening up a code editor for you and letting you create the code. You gotta create everything offline and package it up as a zip and upload it. But you'll be able to use the Genesys Cloud API and all the SDKs and everything that's there to really create some cool functions that are difficult to create with just flows and data actions and such. So that's an exciting addition as well. So and then we've got some cool tools coming out with the Developer Center. We're going to Terraform for CX's code. CX's code is the ability to control configuration through scripting. And we're going to hopefully toward the end of this year, I think, instead of you having to have Terraform installed on your system, we're going to open up Terraform through your Genesys Cloud org. So you'll be able to execute Terraform scripts directly through Genesys Cloud to create bulk users or modify queues or do whatever bulk actions that you want configuration wise. So there's that. And then let me get to some of the questions. Oh, that's interesting. What did I do with that? Bring this up. All right. I only have really one question from Lewis. And I don't have a full name. So Lewis, if you're on, I hope you're hearing this. But Lewis asked, will Genesys be looking at real-time translation feature for voice interactions in the near future? They continue on. We have a quite diverse customer base, and we can currently only communicate with them in English. And it would help to be able to reach out to other people, to those people whose first language isn't English. So I don't think Genesys has a plan for that necessarily, but my work on the App Foundry, I work with lots of third-party vendors looking to integrate their products into Genesys Cloud. And I will say we have this company, Interpretify. Let me put that into the chat for you all if you're interested in them. This is one of the coolest technologies I've ever seen. So the idea is customer calls into Genesys. They're sitting in queue. They're waiting to talk to an agent, and all you have are English-speaking agents. And they're, maybe you've got some English and some Spanish, just a few Spanish-speaking agents. And this person calling in, they're a native Spanish speaker. They're waiting in queue for those few Spanish agents that are available, and their wait time is going to be 30 minutes, right? And they don't want to sit on the phone 30 minutes. When you've got English speakers available, but no Spanish speakers, right? You can offer them in queue. You can say, hey, your hold time is going to be 30 minutes. But if you want, you can use our interpretation system or a translation system to speak with a non-native speaker, however you want to word that. I'm not great at wording that. They press 1 to accept that option. What happens is you send the call out to, say, Interpretify, or there's other vendors that do something similar, but Interpretify is one that's going to come through the App Foundry here soon. The call goes to Interpretify. They get into the stream and they send it back into a queue in Genesys. Okay, so back into another call flow, and you route that call. Now Interpretify is in the stream. They're in the audio stream, and so as you're having that conversation between the caller and the agent, you hear the native Spanish, but it's almost like a whisper, and then Interpretify speaks that to the English-speaking agent in English, so the agent can hear. The agent responds in English. The caller hears the English, but it's like a whisper. And then they hear it in Spanish in full volume, right? In Spanish, translated. And it's just the coolest thing. So if you're looking for a solution like that, I'd reach out to Interpretify. Like I said, they've got competition. You can really search on any of them. Most of them can handle a SIP call, so they can get into the stream. And but Interpretify, you'll be able to buy through the App Foundry and have it right on your Genesys subscription. So that's pretty cool. They're probably a couple months out. So I wanted to answer Lewis's question. Let's see who raised their hand. Somebody raised their hand. Gambi, let me find you, Gambi. Give me a minute. Hey, Gambi, if you've got a question, type it into the Q&A. Actually, here, I can allow you to talk. Here, hold on. All right, Gambi, I think you can talk if you want to ask your question.
Yes, thank you so much. And how does that then work with transcripting? Will it transcript in the native language or in
Oh,
English?
that's a good question. I have not. I wonder what Genesis would hear transcription wise, because you hear both the native voice first as a whisper, and then you hear the translated voice. It's all coming over SIP. It's all over the RTP stream. You know, I don't know. I have not tested what Genesis transcription would do with something like that, but um, I don't know if it would recognize both languages and like dual translate, if you will. Um,
Uh, okay,
yeah,
I
I
see they
don't
have
know.
demos. Maybe I'll try it out.
Yeah. You get in touch with this company or some other company that you know you're interested in and see what they would do. You know, I'm sure they would let you try it out. You know, bridge it into your Genesys Cloud instance, and I don't know, see what transcription would do. Yeah, that actually might be one downside of it, but you know, if you can live with dual transcription of the conversation, that might be all right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll mute you again so you don't have to be quiet. All right. Let's see. Oh, there we go. All right. Let me see. We got some questions. Let me go through those real quick. Let's see. Oh, well, Gambi asks, is one able to download bulk recordings to their servers for free using the API without using webhooks or AWS storage? Without using webhooks or AWS storage, you can get recordings. So if I go to the Developer Center, let's see, we've got, let's see what this comes up. You could do something like this. Let me put this as an answer to your question. Oh, I clicked answer live. Let me bring up the chat. I'll put this in the chat. Okay, there's the link to that URL. So you could use this. I don't believe this does not need the AWS bulk recording integration. You can request this from Genesys. You can create a bulk recording job and you get back, I don't know if we show what you get back. The payload you'll get back is a list of recording URLs. They are on an AWS S3. They're assigned AWS S3 URL, but they're on Genesys's kind of where we store them first. So then you can go pull those off and you can save those off wherever you want to on a network share. I will say it's probably not as fast as you would want it to be, but they're recordings, and you know, if you run them on a nightly job and go get them, just you know, you're going to save them off somewhere for historical purposes. You can do that. So I would encourage you look at that tutorial. That's under our. If you go to the Developer Center and you're just going under recordings, that's one of the main topics we have is how to go get those bulk recordings. So I hope that answers that question. There are other ways to do it. You could go get recordings one by one. So you could use the notification API, listen to conversation events on queue for all calls that go through all the queues, and you can watch when the calls end. And when they end, you can then go call the conversations API and get the recording for that conversation one by one, right, as they end. You probably don't need to do that much work for the kind of real-time aspect. But if you needed them, almost immediately. That would be the way to go get them almost immediately. So let's see. Brent Wines, does Genesys Cloud plan on eventually supporting the T38 fax protocol on outbound faxes? I don't think fax is getting a lot of love these days. I think we've got we've got roadmap features that we are concentrating on, and fax, although it is important to some industries, it's not as high priority. I don't know how to say that nicely. It's not as high priority as some other options on our roadmap. So there are again some third-party vendors that that you can use that do support T38 faxes. And let me think about this. Retaurus. I think Retaurus is one that came to us. I think this is the right one. Cloud Fax. So, and they have fax APIs too. The easiest was so I've talked to this vendor for customers who needed a great fax solution, and Retaurus apparently is really great in their industry. It's easy to hook them up via email. So if you generate an outbound email, but it goes to the Retaurus email inbox, they will send it out as a fax. You have to, put in the subject line as to like what fax number it needs to go to and stuff. And they deal with that. It works really well. So I know it would be great to have it natively built into Genesys. I just don't think that's going to get done here anytime soon. So you might have to look elsewhere for that. As always, if you do have any ideas, if you want T38 fax support, if you go to our ideas portal, let me get that link for you. Ideas, Genesys Cloud Ideas portal. Give me 1 second. I guess I don't want to give you the login prompt, so let me sign in here. Oh, great. Hopefully you guys know where the ideas portal is. If you go to the ideas portal, you can put in an idea and vote that up. There's probably someone who's already put in a T38 fax idea, so you can just upvote that if you want. All right. So Robert Wakefield Carl, will there be additional cost for cloud functions? Probably. So we're executing these lambdas. We can't control if a lambda gets in a tight loop or something like that and consumes a ton of CPU cost for that region or for that org. We're probably not giving it away for free. I don't know exactly what the cost is going to be, but I would assume there's going to be some kind of cost with that. Probably fractions of a cent, probably just maybe a little bit above what it costs to run a Lambda on AWS. But yes, I would suspect there's cost to that. And you also asked, will Cloud Functions use our AWS Lambda? What's the difference between Lambda integration and Cloud Function? Well, they're essentially the same. The reason we're coming up with them is, as I said, some customers don't want to go get their own AWS account. They just don't want to manage that. They're coming to the cloud because they don't want to manage anything. They want Genesys to manage stuff. So instead of getting their own AWS account and using AWS Lambda data actions, they can just host the Lambda in their Genesys Cloud org, call that with our new Cloud Functions block. It's going to operate very much like an AWS Lambda data action. We're just calling it in the org's instance instead of a third-party AWS account. So, all right. We've got someone who asked, I'd like to see better documentation, real-world examples working with APIs. What you have today is wonderful. You are a knowledgeable developer, but for those still learning and trying to utilize data actions, I find the help is cryptic and very confusing. We hear you. I just recently became the product manager for the developer center. So prior to this, the development teams have been kind of running everything with that. Um, I am working towards making some more user-friendly getting started guides. Those are slowly trickling out. I expect by the end of the second quarter, we'll have some really great getting started documentation on how to utilize some of this end to end. Data actions are an interesting one because um, even though they're developer related, and we all use data actions day to day, and we make API requests using them in architect flows, data actions are actually documented on our resource center, and they're not covered very well in the developer center and the nuances and stuff that might go into that. So we shouldn't have those silos. I know that we shouldn't have those silos. It is what it is today. I'm working to break down that barrier so that we give data actions some love on the developer center and speak about a focused discussion on how developers would use data actions versus maybe just how a business user would configure a basic one. So that's coming. I'm not sure who asked that, but we've got not just that, but a series of what we're calling solutions guides that are kind of like getting started, kind of resources to look at and help folks who are new to the platform and new to all the technologies that we have navigate that documentation a little better. So I hear your pain. When will audible notifications be available? That's from Dana. Dana, I got that. I saw you ask that. Audible notifications. So you were asking that on web messaging. I don't know the answer to that. I can get you the answer to that, and I can get back to you on that. I don't know the roadmap for web messaging and whether, audible notifications are coming necessarily, but I can check on that and get back to you. So I don't have an answer right now. All right, and then Dana, you also asked, is the quality module being worked on to provide better granular analysis? Yeah, so again, I don't have the quality, the WEM roadmap, but I can get an answer for that for you as well. So I've got your questions. They weren't super developer related, about APIs and how to code for the system. So I'll answer those offline with you and get those back to you. All right, Robert asked again, why is there not an easy way to get transcripts out of Genesys through API? Robert, I'm not sure about your question because we do have transcript APIs. And let me show you. Give me a second. So let me clear that and transfer that. Let me just get them all. Select all transcripts, query. It's not analytics. Speech and text analytics. Oh man, you're gonna make me look. Oh, here it is. Here it is. For a conversation. For a conversation, you can get the transcript with this. Let me put this in the chat. I'm sure you probably have this already. But conversation ID, you guys know what conversation ID. For messaging conversations, there's also a communication ID. So that's down in the JSON a little bit off the conversation object. You'll find the messaging ID that you can put in that conversation ID, and you can get the URL to the transcript. Again, it gives you the URL, so then you got to go do a get on that URL, and you can you can get that. And we also have off the notification API. So if you set up a WebSocket to Genesys Cloud and you subscribe to on a specific conversation, the transcription event, you can get transcripts nearly real time. It's a couple of seconds delayed because if you, I don't know, I use an iPhone. So when you talk to Siri on an iPhone, or you maybe talk to Google Assistant, and you as you're talking, you can see Siri, you can see what you're saying. She's transcribing stuff, but sometimes she'll go back and change a word based on the context. So Genesys is doing that same thing. As we're transcribing, we will go back and alter a word as we get more context of the sentence and the paragraph. And so we don't send the real-time transcription event until our confidence level is a certain percentage, and then we send the transcription event. So if you need them real time, you can get them that way. But there is an API. So Robert, I hope that answered your question on that. Is it an easy way to do it? No, probably not. Because it's a two-step, right? You got to call to get the URL, and then you got to go get the transcript from the URL. But we do have ways to get the transcripts out. So I hope that answered that question. When will we get transcription summary in the API? I don't know, Robert. Hold on. I'm gonna allow you to talk. All right. Hey, Robert, you're on. You want to?
Yeah, so obviously you have not looked at the output from the transcription. It is almost impossible to parse a transcript from there. It is probably 200 lines of code for 10 seconds. And you have to go down into multiple embedded arrays in order to pull that out. And as you know, we don't like embedded arrays or nested arrays very easily. It's very difficult to pull it out. There is no transcript summary right now. It goes away as soon as the conversation goes away. So there is no way to access it through an API to pull it into anything else without the user actually hitting copy and then paste. The transcript though is, even through the notification API, it is inside nested arrays. And so you do have to, essentially you have to build your own engine to piece this together.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to reassemble it. Yeah. So what were you looking at? Were you looking at like a more user-friendly consumable transcript?
Well, like the little copy button on the transcript. If you hit the copy button, you get a transcript already formatted. Why can't we have that? Or why can't we have what you're sending to Meta as a transcript? Because you're sending it to Meta for the summary. Why can't we have access to that transcript?
So I got to figure out where my last call was. Let's try this. So if I go, sorry, it's taking a while. What if I pause that? Oh, backups, okay. Okay, here it comes. Sorry for my machine. I don't know why it's so slow. Oh, well, it's not much of a transcript here. Is this like you're wanting to get like what would show up on this tab of the
Correct. It's already formatted between customer and agent. It's got, punctuation, which you don't have in the transcript. It's got capitalization, which you don't have in the transcript. All these things.
Okay. And you're talking about this copy button. Does that
Correct.
get you what you want?
Obviously, this is accessing some function to get a formatted transcript. It would be nice for us to have access to that same function.
Let's see what they're doing. So, beauty of it. What happens if I click that copy button? Oh, so they've pre-formatted. They're just putting it in a clipboard. What do we get? I love these sessions because I learn new stuff too. So what do we get out of that? Okay. Yeah, again, that transcript's not great, but now I see. So you want something like this, maybe in a parsable. Well, I mean, this is probably parsable if you wanted to, but you want it laid out like this. Okay.
Well, anything better than the JSON format right now.
Anything's better. Yeah, I will admit the JSON is a little heavy.
Well, it's not
And
just
you do
heavy.
have,
It's just you can't even distinguish between the customer and the agent without knowing the participant ID of each.
true.
So if the agent says two things, you can't assume that that's agent and then customer responding. It might be the customer saying two things, and you have to look at the participant ID in order to know who's saying what. It's really a pain.
Yeah. Hmm. Um, I know you're pretty savvy with this stuff. I guess you've probably opened an idea for that.
Oh yeah, many.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you, obviously. Um, hmm. I have a pretty good connection with the WIM team and the folks who do recording and transcription. So, yeah, let me see if I can't push on that a little bit and see if we can make some progress on those ideas. You got a couple of others here. They're probably all around the same thing.
No, I was just thinking on the transcription thing, instead of doing SIP, it seems like these companies could use the new audio connector, which gives a two-way audio, and tie into that instead with, you know, essentially next generation audio hook, or the audio hook.
Yeah,
that would be
so
more ideal than a SIP call conference.
that's true. So yeah, you could take the audio out to a third-party transcription system. We have a couple of app foundry vendors that do that. Obviously, you're already paying for Genesys transcription, I guess, if you have the WIM add-on or you have that in your GC3 license. But yeah, if it's not doing what you're wanting, you can always the third party can pull that out. There's plenty of
No, I'm talking about if you're talking to Interprify, you might point them towards the audio connector instead of the SIP.
Oh, the audio, yes. So yes. At the time, we didn't have two-way audio, so SIP calls were the only way to do that. Yeah, so audio connector might be a way to do that. What I don't know about audio connector yet is how long they stay in the stream. I assume it works a lot like audio hook, where once they're in, they're in.
It's the same. It's the same mechanism. It's just two-way now instead of only one way. So.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that. I'll bring that up with Interprify and some of the others as they come online. So all right. Any other questions, Robert?
Oh, I'm sure I'll come up with some. I always do.
Okay. All right. If you do, put them in there. I'll bring you back on. All right. Hey, let's see. Gambi, you asked to talk again. Gambi, did you have another question? I'll bring you back in.
Oh, no, I didn't. Did I press it by mistake? No, I didn't have another question. So.
All right. All right. Josh Coyle, let's see. Josh, you raised your hand. I'm going to allow you to talk, okay? All right, Josh, what's going on? Josh, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I must have did that by accident.
That's all right. Oh, you didn't need to talk?
No, sorry.
Okay, no worries. All right. All right, let's dig through some of these. So looks like I dismissed one. Let me go through that because I accidentally got rid of one. Martin, will this session be recorded and available to watch later? Yes, I hope so. Yes, I am recording this. All right. Melissa, is it possible to connect a call back to a skill? Is that done in the UI or an architect? Connect the call back to a skill. I'm not sure I understand that. If you don't mind, I might bring you off. Melissa, can you explain your question a little more? What are you trying to do there?
Yeah, hello everyone. We want to, sometimes our customers, we need to call them back, for example, because we don't have any bilingual agents available.
Oh,
So
yep.
they'll like, okay, let's do a callback request, but we're just putting it in a Teams channel chat. So I saw that there's that callback request in the UI, but the agent can only select, for example, to either send it to them. But what we would want essentially is, well, if we have like a French skill or certain skill sets, can't we set it up so that the agent can pick what it's looking for when we do a callback so it goes to the right person?
Oh, let's see. You know what? I haven't called the callback API in a while. Let's see what we got.
And then on top of that, well, if we wanted to give also the customer the option while they're waiting on hold, how we could set that up so they get to the right person right the first time, essentially.
Yeah, let's see. If you create a callback, you can put it in a queue. Routing data, what do we have? Skills, you can specify skills. So you may not, I don't know if the user interface allows you to specify the skills. It probably doesn't,
No.
but you could create a data action, a Genesys Cloud data action, which allows you to call APIs. So you could call this API to create a callback, specify everything you need to for what queue it should go in and stuff and what skills. And you could then invoke that data action through a script. So if you're using agent scripts, you can drop the button on there and have that button invoke an action, and that data action can schedule that callback with the proper skill and put that in the right queue and such.
All right.
And you can do the same thing from architect, right? If they're in an inbound flow and their wait time is going to be 30 minutes and you want to offer them a callback, instead of using the callback block that's there, let's go look. What's I have architect up here. Let me go back to an inbound flow. Where's line? Going to this. Gonna run out of time to get through all the topics here. Let's see. Let me edit. Go to this flow. Probably, I forget where callback's at. It's not audio. It's not bot. It's not common. It's gonna be. You guys are probably sitting there going, man, he doesn't even know where callbacks are. It's not logical. Not task. Well, I thought there was a callback block. If there's not a callback block, then you could call the Genesys Cloud data actions. Again, I don't do callbacks very often. It's not something I like. It's not top of mind for me. So if you can't specify what you need to on the callback block, you can always drop a data action onto your flow, kind of like what I have here, and call it Genesys Cloud data action, and you can specify the skills and offer that callback to them in queue. So
Okay, that's a great. Thank you.
Yeah, Melissa, you had another one. How does Genesys decide when to make something available via the UI versus going through APIs? Oh, well, well, that's so Genesys is an API first platform, and what that means is before we release anything GA, even the UI, we have to have an API for it. So our APIs, generally, everything we have is public. There are a few APIs that are not exposed, like you can't buy a phone number through the API. Genesys Cloud Voice doesn't have the ability to buy a phone number through the API. There's a few things like that we don't expose, but generally everything you can do in the UI has an API behind it. And you probably saw me, if you bring up the developer tools, and just watch the traffic between the UI and the API, you can see our UI is just making API requests. So we always have the API first, right? That releases first, and then at some point the UI comes along, or maybe they're released at the same time, but generally the API is there a little ahead of time, and then the UI is released. So you might find a lot of things in preview, especially in betas. You know, things might be in preview for a while as things are in beta. But I don't know how they decide necessarily when the UI, I mean, just as resources allow, they get the UI developed to allow you to configure things nicely. So does that answer your questions, Melissa?
Yeah, it does. Sometimes I think there should be an API that's a bit more straightforward. Like, for example, there's APIs to like get all the permissions,
Yes.
but only like by user. But like what we look for is we want to know all the permissions that are attached to a role, and I can't seem to find that as easily or find a way as straight to get that sort of
the roles.
ideas for them to like mention stuff like that.
I'd put that in because even if they're not high priority, if you know, if a developer has some cycles, they can go out and they can pull that into a sprint. You know, if they're not totally booked up on a sprint and there's an idea sitting out there and it's something they can do, you know, in a day, and they've got some cycles to do it, they can pull that in.
That sounds good. That sounds like how we work here at my org.
We're very much an agile shop here at Genesys. So everything's a sprint, and as you know, as resources come in, we can go look on the backlog and pull things in, just like you would think in agile development. So, all right. Well, Melissa, I'm going to turn off your microphone here, and I'll get through the rest of these. Chad commented, and you can get transcripts, but they're ugly. Yes, thanks. I guess we've already covered that. All right, Bruce, we had to extract Q&A question level data via the API. The challenge was that the retrieved data was nested. It took our developers a while to figure out how to unnest the data so it was in usable reporting format. So this goes along with Robert's and even Melissa's comments. We do develop APIs and we release those first. Those APIs are generally built to support our UI. Okay, so like in Melissa's case, getting permissions that are assigned to or used by all roles or something like that, you know, our UI shows roles and then the permissions in those roles. So the APIs are developed from kind of a role top-down kind of view, and maybe not from a permission down drill-in kind of view. That is something, I mean, I even struggle with that. All the developers who use the APIs struggle sometimes to use an API in the way they want to versus the way it was designed to support the Genesys UI. Again, I'm not saying we did it right. We did, like, there's obviously a use case, like in Melissa's case, where she needs the API to report on it in a certain way. That's a great candidate for the ideas portal. Let me see how to say this in a politically correct manner. There may not be a way to say it. So the ideas portal, that's not just a place where you post things and they go to die. There may be, you may think that, you may think your idea doesn't have a lot of weight or a lot of votes behind it, but when you guys post those get sent immediately to the product managers. We all see those. We create a Jira ticket to put those on the backlog. We try to schedule those in as they get voted up. They prioritize as higher. So it does take us a while, right? We've got a limited number of development resources and roadmap features that we have to build and support. So some of the backlog doesn't get worked maybe as fast as you would like it, but we definitely do see those ideas. We do react to those ideas, and we have a pretty strong push to even be more responsive to the ideas. We some of the product managers maybe don't go out and let you know that they've seen your idea and that they're looking at those. We're trying to get better on that. So, Robert, we've got just a few minutes. I'm going to allow you to talk again. Okay, your mic's open if you want to. You raised your hands. So you got something.
Yeah, Melissa, if you want to just tag me on the community, those would be great questions to be answered over there for the callback and for the API calls and stuff. We definitely have solutions within the product for that. And the other one was, oh, you were just talking, I forgot. There was something that you just told Melissa, this last thing.
APIs and UI ideas.
Oh yeah, so yeah, oh that's right. For the roles and in the permissions on the roles, we use the CLI a lot with JQ to be able to get an Excel spreadsheet and then pull it into a pivot table. So it makes it very easy to look at the data through the CLI and a JQ command just to extract what we want, like the role and the permission, and then pull that into a pivot table in Excel.
Very good idea, Robert. So yeah, so Robert brings up a couple of good points. I'll probably finish up with that. So community.genesys.com. That's kind of that's our community question and answer. Hey, well, Melissa, how do I do callbacks with skills, right? You could post that into the community forum, and it's a pretty active forum. You select the Genesys Cloud one, and you can post a question in there. Robert is very active on the forum. You'll likely get an answer from Robert. There's several folks that are really active out there. Genesys product managers and such answer on there as well. That's a great place to go get your questions. And you can also DM people. So if you don't want to post a public post, you can just talk to somebody directly. And then, shoot, what was the second thing? Oh, okay. Yes. So if you go to the Developer Center for the CLI, go to the Developer Center and just click on some topics. So you get to the topics view, and you go down to developer tools, developer applications, platform API CLI. So this is pretty cool. You can install this application. It'll run run at your command line. So if you're a PowerShell user, or you run a Mac or Linux terminal, you set up the CLI and you can go run these commands like GC. GC is the keyword. You can say GC, and under routing, I want to get queues, and I want it list, and I want it auto-paginated. And what that'll do, let me just take that and let me show you. I got a couple of minutes. I know we're gonna run out of time here. All right, I'm at my terminal. I've got the CLI already installed, and I've got it connected to my org. So if I run that, there we go. I get all the JSON dumped out to just out to the console, right? And this is a list of the queues, and then you can combine that. Let's see if we cover that. You can get that out to CSV files. You can define these templates that'll parse that JSON and put it in CSV format. You can pipe commands, the vertical bar, the pipe command to string things together. You can use JQ, which is another library that you can use to parse that JSON, parse the JSON and feed that into another GC command. You can really string these along, and so you can write some really cool scripts to do things from the command line that you need to do. So you're still kind of writing code. You're doing it at the command line. PowerShell's maybe a little bit higher level than writing low level, JavaScript or Java or C# code, but it allows you to do things really quickly just from the command line that you can just knock out and be done with. So with that, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. We're just past the top of the hour, and I think we'll wrap up with that. And I thank you all for joining. We will be back next month, I think next month, with a new topic. Hopefully, we'll be right at the release of work items. So I will leave you with that, and we'll talk at the next DevCast. Take care. Bye-bye.